Hello, everybody. My name is Josh Linville. I'm the Vice President of the Fertilizer Division for StoneX. And this week, there are several stories in the fertilizer markets that we are watching relatively closely. Now, again, this is typically a time of year when there's not a whole lot that's really happening around the world, but this year seems to be bucking all of the trends. And the main thing that we've really been talking about the last several weeks has been India and this major urea purchase tender that they have been working on. Things are finally getting finalized, and it does look like they are going to reach that 2 million ton purchase goal that they had set at the onset of this tender being announced. This is great news for Indian buyers who had been sitting there kind of worried that, what our stockpile is going to look like. Monsoon season is looking very, very good, so demand is going to look very good. How are we seeing on supplies? This is going to be a great step towards getting them where they need to be to get that monsoon season started. But this doesn't mark the end of what they will need for the remainder of 2025. And in fact, as we look out to January 26, aside from this 2 million ton they're going to purchase, we continue to estimate they're going to need another 3 million ton to be purchased. And that could be happening as soon as next week. It looks like India could be right back into the mix in the news of the world with them possibly announcing yet another tender. So as soon as we wrap up this one, we are going to be on tender alert once again. The eyes of the fertilizer market continue to be fixated on Russia, Ukraine, and the U.S. driving peace talks. Now, we know that President Trump continues to push for peace extremely hard. He's putting a lot of pressure on both sides. He is tired of seeing this fighting between these two nations. Now, we're going to admit the chances remain very, very low that anything is going to be found, that they're going to figure out a way to make the fighting stop. But it's not zero. And it can really diverge two completely separate paths. If peace happens to be found, that could be the first domino of many that could signal a return to a normalized nitrogen marketplace. You start to think about the things that could happen. Russia and Ukraine find peace. Russia could demand global relations return back with Russia. And all of a sudden, now you start to see normal urea, phosphate, potash flows around the world. That could be a big help. You could see Russia push for Europe to take gas from the Nord Stream pipeline, which as soon as that's fixed, it's ready to go. That could cause gas prices in Europe to fall, causing their production of nitrogen to return back to normal. That all could lead to China maybe returning back to normal export rates as they see a global urea market that's normalized again. It takes a lot of dominoes. I'm not going to act like I expect all that to happen, but it is something we are watchful for and something we are hopeful for. However, on the flip side of it, if peace is not found, we know that President Trump is ready to go against Russia with major, major tariffs. This could rock the fertilizer world if he takes that step of saying, if you do business with Russia, you will not do business with the US. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about how much Russian fertilizer can really find its way around the world. Now, all of a sudden, we're repeating that story where we saw 21, 22, 2021, 2022 really, really high fertilizer prices around the world. You think about it going up like it did that time. Now, if we were to put that same story actually happening in this world today, it could be devastating for farmers around the world. So we need to watch the Russia Ukraine situation very, very closely. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of middle ground. It's all or nothing in this situation. North America Marketplace had its UAN fill programs released yesterday and in line with our expectations. Unfortunately, this is a market that's largely driven by the domestic US Canadian nitrogen manufacturers. We saw a situation in spring of this year, 2025, where a lot of regions across North America struggled to find supply, and it wasn't a price mechanism. It was a lack of supply in the marketplace. And as I continue to look at this fertilizer year, which started July 1st, I feel like this year is starting off significantly worse than last year did. Imports could be smaller if we block Russian imports. Russia accounts for half of the UAN imports into the US marketplace. That's a major supply for North America. Exports could be larger if Europe continues to block Russia and we see trend ed production issues persist, which they have for a while. Overall nitrogen remains high, or overall nitrogen demand remains high. Domestic nitrogen production, there's several plants with scheduled downtime for repairs. That's going to eat into available supply. It doesn't even account anything that might happen over the next, say, 6 to 9 months. So it does not guarantee we repeat the spring season that we saw with the tight supplies out there. That is absolutely not what I am saying. It does not guarantee anything. It is just something that we need to watch very, very closely. And lastly, phosphate values remain extremely high around the world. Not really much has changed here. Chinese exports remain very, very low, about 4.5 million tons quota export versus their normal 8 to 10 million tons. India has done a very, very good job of capping their price at 810 CFR. They've really stuck their chest out and gotten bold and proud on this number and said, we will not support anything above this. And so far, the rest of the world has listened. For now, India obviously still needs a lot more phosphate to get through their looming season, but they're at least able to kind of pump the brakes on any further price increases out there. NOLA DAP pushed high enough to a global premium that we are now in line with India values, quote unquote, paying the 10% tariff that we have on Saudi Arabia today. So all of a sudden, the U.S. looks like it might start getting some boats, start getting some imports in from the rest of the world, which it hasn't for a very, very long time. But ultimately speaking, poor grain values continue to keep the phosphate grain ratios near, at, or in some cases above the all-time highs. It's a very, very difficult time for farmers, not only here across North America, but around the world. They're looking at the most unaffordable phosphate that they have ever seen in their lives. So, like I said, a lot of stuff happening in the fertilizer industry, a lot of things that we're watching. We've got a fall season coming up here for a lot of the markets, and spring will be here before we know it. So, no time to rest. So, guys, that is it for this week. We really appreciate your attention. If you like this and looking for more content like it, please like and subscribe.